Hello, Alex.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, I think we can start. So I was not here last week, so I'm not sure about if we are going to do this like more async. But my idea is like to list here like at the beginning the exit criteria and where we are. So we have a couple of updates. One is for the documentation that Katie and Axel, they are going to catch up about the next steps for the API docs and clean up existing user issues. Related to the creative learning paths and contents to contribute to the API, I'm the DRI of that one, and I'm going to start. I haven't started yet, so before next meeting, I'm going to see where we are, and I'm going to list like all the content, assisted content that we have. I know that there are like YouTube playlists and other things to contribute to the API GraphQL, so I'm going to see all that we have and see what are the next steps on that. So this is my, my next thing for these 2 weeks.
I pulled my my note up into the exit criteria list here. So for the things I've been focused on as DRI, I've been prioritizing the internal API user survey. So this is kind of an extension of API gap analysis, and I've had a lot of feedback from the team here and others as I've been developing that survey. So I finally completed that and sent it out through a couple of Slack channels and through the engineering week in review doc. I don't know if that's like, if there's a video or conversation that happens around the week in review. So I was going to ask a question about that, but I think in any case, so far the response has been pretty minimal. So I'd like to, I think we'll have to do some reminders and nudge some people to participate or put it into additional channels. But we've got a start here, and so I think it would be helpful for folks to pitch in and kind of nudge it, share to your teams, anyone on the team here, and encourage participation.
Alex, any update on your exit criteria? I know that you are working in the proof of concept, so I'm not sure what are your plans for the next 2 weeks.
So if I get some time, so I think we're basically done with the webhook stuff, the deliverable stuff on my plate. But basically what we need to do with that is prove that it makes sense. So performance issues were raised about whether this is actually feasible, beyond sort of toy examples for real things like fetching lists of issues and stuff like that. So what we need to do is we need to basically, I think the appropriate thing to do here is working on a defined scopes like lists of issues is a good example because it's quite complicated, and attempting to bring it as close as possible to the performance of the REST API. If there are, unhandled N+1s that we're not dealing very well with in the GraphQL, basically, can we get it as close as we can? So what should it actually be if we did things as well as we know how to do? And so I think a test case like that, where we know what the appropriate performance level of REST is, we think we should be able to get close enough. If we optimize it, we don't know what limits of optimization are. So I think possibly that's the next step, is an optimization effort. that is probably going to be a case of try it out, see how much work there is to do, potentially create a whole bunch of issues about stuff that needs to be fixed up. So it's likely to be first an exploratory effort, and then a bunch of other issues, and then we need to decide how much work we want to put into this.
But at the moment, at the moment, are you blocked by any other team? Like, it's not the memory 10 anymore.
No, I don't
know
think
the
I'm
new
blocked
language.
by any other team. I think we know what the work to do is. Well, so I think it's sort of anyone is able to go and optimize different parts of our GraphQL schema. So that's not a there's no particular blocking thing there about other people need to do things.
So in the maybe the next steps here is to make progress on this is like if you can list what you are saying, and maybe if we can split that into different issues, then we can distribute the work into different people, and we know what are exactly the next steps there, right?
Yeah, this was discussed a little bit on the performance testing issue. I'll split that out and CC you there.
So the main idea that I have going forward with the group is basically to create a small chunks of work. So
Yep.
every couple of weeks we see progress on any of the exit criteria. So it could be maybe some weeks is just organizing work, maybe others are like distributing work, or maybe, it depends. But I like to see, that every couple of weeks we are making kind of progress. So we can miss, we are busy on holidays for 2 weeks, is fine, but I want to see like that we are making progress in every single exit criteria. And maybe we have like a small task or issues, maybe we can like also engage with other team members. So this is what are my thoughts. But yeah, so please create that, like anything that we can split and list the next steps on the issue in Epic, and that way we can distribute that. Cool.
I had a question too. Maybe I missed some of the conversation. So the performance testing issue, was it the memory team that was supporting a little bit there? Did they do some testing, or is there an opportunity for them to support in any way at least?
Yes, I suppose. Although, who was it who was doing some of the testing with us? Sorry, I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, I'll pull up the issue as well. I'm kind of blanking as well, but I remember they were participating. I thought they had kind of slated it for maybe 15.4, and so then maybe we can circle back and see if that happened, or if there's still appetite to help with some of the testing aspects.
It was
I'm not sure.
Matthias Kapler was the person.
Okay.
Yeah, Matthias Kepler has been involved with discussions on this. It wasn't him who was doing some of the testing. It was
okay.
So we have an issue that is to do that.
Yes.
Let me link this here.
Sorry, I'll stop typing for a second.
This is the issue here. So, but basically, I'm not sure if we are blocked by that issue, or like is saying like how we can organize this to make progress during the next 2 weeks.
Agreed. Yeah, if we can avoid being blocked, that makes sense. I agree with you, Arturo. I just wanted to check in and see if there was some work done, and if they kind of contributed to this, or if there's still appetite to help in any way. So that's great.
Fabio, any updates from you that you have like a big epic? So again, it's like how we can distribute that, so and make progress.
So currently no progress from my side, because 1 week I was like a PTO, and last week we were on get together with the rest of the team. So I haven't done any work like in the last 2 weeks, but like as we were discussing in the merge request for the exit criteria, I think it makes sense to descope some parts of the epic that are related to deprecations that we want to add to V5 in terms of functionality that currently have in V4, well, we don't need to add them to V5. And I think because deprecation is different than design and maybe a blueprint we want to write for V5. And yeah, so I think those at least could be descoped. But for the rest, I need to catch up with so primarily we would like to do two blueprints, one for GraphQL and one for REST V5, and understand what are the gaps there, what are the functionality we need, if there is any tooling we are missing, or but for me it's about for me to figure out like where are the gaps and try to understand what's the state of GraphQL I'm a lot more familiar with the state of REST, but a lot less with GraphQL. So I might ping Alex every now and then if I have any questions, and we can figure things out from there.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next 2 weeks is
I'll try to have like a plan of what makes sense to tackle first by next week, and catch up with all the discussions that we have in the epic, because at the moment it seems a bit too big, and I need to figure out who's gonna do what work or what issue, because some of them are assigned to different teams for what we have in the epic. So I need to understand the state of the epic first, and then figure out the next steps from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So basically in these two issues that we discussed, like Alex and Fabio, is basically to organize things and see where we are, right, in order to move things forward. Cool. So the next point that we have here is basically, I mean, I want to involve more people, and this is a question not for anyone here in the call, but it's basically for those that they don't have like any task, if there is any exit criteria or maybe any issue that they want to contribute. I think that if as we are doing here, like if we make plans and steps for the next 2 weeks, I think that probably is going to be easier for people to jump into things. So I think that if we continue that way, like saying, okay, these next 2 weeks I'm going to do this, or I created this issue so anyone can take them, I think that is going to be easier for people to say. Maybe you can say, hey, I organized this work about the GraphQL blueprint, so maybe it's easier for anyone like go and take a look into that and maybe get involved. Apart from that, I'm not sure if do you have any other ideas how we can like improve the progress that we are making in the working group. Anything could be, like.
Yeah, I think we can probably share in the engineering week review that we are looking for other working group members to collaborate. One of my concern might be whether we are spreading things a bit thin, especially with regard to technical issues. So I'm not sure, like, I know the work that Alex is doing, and certainly the two epics that I have are quite large, and I will probably need to pick what are the best issues to tackle first, and then just focus on certain things rather than try to tackle the entire epic with multiple issues, from basically try to tackle the problem from different angles. So I don't know whether it makes sense to maybe pick some top items and tackle those kind of in group. but yeah, I would like to understand, like, what other people think about that. I have the feeling that if we spread ourselves too thin, we will have like a lot of discussion, especially with some of the issues related to where there are different opinions, like GraphQL to REST converter, and also what are the design for V5 for REST, or what are like next gaps to discuss for GraphQL. There could be a lot of discussions that are involved, and these things can go on for quite a long time. So I'm wondering whether we should pick some specific aspect to kind of prioritize what we want to focus first, and try to swarm those and then move on to the next point. I don't have an answer for this yet. I just want to raise a possible concern.
Do you mean, like, for example, I mean, because there are things that maybe we can make progress in parallel, like, for example, documentation or things like that, but there are other topics, like, as you say, related to architecture decisions, GraphQL blueprints, other things, like, is like you want to go more like as a group, like, say, let's focus on this one during a few weeks, and then at some point maybe we can work in parallel, or maybe move on into the next exit criteria, for example, right? Is what
Yeah,
you are
because
thinking at the moment.
certain things like a architecture blueprint, it tends to take a long time, and first there's going to be a lot of discussions, try to understand, like, involve a lot of engineers to figure out different points of view, and then put them all together into a blueprint. And it's a process that normally takes like a long time. There's like several iterations, and you need to wait for feedback, which might take like a week or two, and then like integrate that. So they tend to be open for a month, certain merge requests. And on one side, it can give us an opportunity to work in parallel with the other things, but having too many open topics can be also a problem with the resources and with context switching, and considering we also have like other deliverables, other work to do. So I'm wondering whether we could, if we pick some problems, we all think about certain problems together and try to at least draft like 80% of the problem and solutions, then we can maybe iterate on blueprints like a bit faster on and integrate feedback a little bit faster. I think there's definitely some tasks that could be done in parallel, and that we don't have to all be dedicated to one single thing at a time. I'm more concerned about the more technical discussions where there can be different opinions or different things to tackle, basically, for a single issue. So I think documentation or learning material, this could definitely be done like in parallel.
Yeah. So so because you are going to review where you are with your epic, that I think that is the most, like, talking about decisions and things like that. Maybe for next meeting we can discuss, you can suggest which one do you think is the priority, and then start working on that as a group. I think it's a good idea. And as you say, there are things that maybe we can do in parallel, like, for example, learning paths, or maybe documentation. It depends what we are doing, but other, like, architectural decisions or blueprints, maybe we have to work as a group. So happy to work this way. I mean, after your suggestions about what should be the priority, I think it's a very good idea to do that way.
Okay, sounds good.
I was wondering as well, do some of the decisions in the blueprints and like version 5 APIs depend on the outcomes from the rest of our GraphQL exploration? If
ideally,
not,
ideally no,
okay.
because the point of that is simply as an instrument to help us, and we shouldn't. At least I don't think we should limit the way we want to design these APIs to because of the limitations of an underlying tool. If that tool
Right.
has underlying limitations, then the tool needs either fixing or abandoning.
Got it. Yeah, just wanted to check on that because that could be another way to consider how we structure work. Otherwise, I think priorities or that the demand from customers on certain items, or like you said, it's going to take a lot more time with the blueprint. So maybe some things could be lower hanging fruit that we could solve and start addressing customer problems in the short term. So maybe thinking about like the deprecations aspect, if we know that there's going to be a lot of discussion required. But yeah, I think everything we just discussed that you just shared, just trying to come back next time with a clear idea of like the different items and topics that fall under that umbrella and your priorities. I think that would be a good start. Yeah, if there's anything I can help with though, let me know.
Yeah, the only other point I want to make there, because it aligns a bit similar to what Fabio is saying, is these are big issues. Arturo's writing stuff there as well. I guess it'd be nice to find ways to close these things out more quickly, if possible. And we want to get things right. So a lot of this involves significant upfront design work. But it'd be nice to work out how can we get stuff merged and moving forwards, rather than lots and lots of discussion. That yeah, can we cut things down, not just in scope and size and in terms of lots of issues, try and get stuff moved forward, but can we can we make the exit criteria itself smaller? I don't know necessarily what we should be doing there. A good example of what I mean by that is, say, with the whole concept of REST over GraphQL, is it, should we wait until everything is perfect? We know it works for large complex routes, or is it fine to proceed now by introducing this for smaller routes that we know that might be more acceptable for performance? There are pluses and minuses there, but it might be one way to get stuff shipped.
Yeah, and that's a hard question to answer. I think one of my thoughts on this is like the scope of the exit criteria. Like, we're not, the outcome isn't to build a new API like V5 API and to completely have every API REST over GraphQL, but to make decisions about how we want to move forward. So yeah, I think it's kind of around, I think for REST over GraphQL, it's kind of about how do we test and validate that this should work, well enough that we can start moving forward with it, to even replace some endpoints. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not a 100% solution for moving to GraphQL, a GraphQL first approach. But if it's something that isn't going to impact us negatively, then maybe that's enough to start moving the needle forward. But yeah, I think to me, it ultimately depends on what are the outcomes from these performance discussions, and kind of relying on you all to help validate that. But if there's something I can also do or pull in some other people to help with, I'd be happy to support however I can. I don't know, does that help at all, Alex, or?
I mean, I think we're on the same page with that.
Okay. Yeah, and if you want to have a deeper discussion on that, maybe we can start that in one of the issues and think about how can we start narrowing it down and involve some others to help provide feedback on that.
Yeah, I think for the next meeting, probably what we can discuss is Fabio is going to bring what are the main topics that we have to do related to discussions, and you also, Alex, maybe on the work that you are doing related to like cohesive foundation of the development strategy is another maybe topic. So basically we can see all the main topics, and obviously we can discuss things async where we are, but then after that, maybe in the meeting we can discuss as a group what is the priority as a group, because we can make progress and async updates, but then maybe for taking the decision, okay, as a group, we go this way, maybe we can have a live discussion more related to that. Okay. Anything else?
Don't believe so. I guess so we'll expect that others will pitch in async on the exit on this 0.1 exit criteria updates for those who weren't able to join today.
Yeah, and anything that at the end, any work that we are organizing, I expect on the epics to have like kind of update. So anyone that is following an epic, they can follow there. So yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you.
Wolf.
Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.